Again, see me afterwards for additional information. I could explain it to you and actually send you an invite to either one. So although our contract is typically with the prospective buyer, our goal is to build a relationship with you, to formulate a trust, to have inspection services group perform inspections for your clients. We're here to help you close the deal. So if you haven't already had a chance to look at the information folder I provided, there's why realtors and clients trust our services flyer, the Circle of Life flyer. It lists the various elements of a typical home inspection. There's general information and indoor air quality and a stucco inspection brochure. There's also a Get Acquainted special offer on the one side, and there's information about that recall check and recall track that I previously mentioned on how we could market your guys, out there as well. So I'll be available throughout the breaks and after the session at the table in the back. Stop by and see me. Drop off a business card to enter in today's door prize, or just chat about how we can help you and your clients. 3 key items I'd like to take away, for you to take away from my brief introduction is we're a one-stop source, report presentation, and the value-added services. A quote that emphasizes Inspection Services Group's business philosophy is quality and service or product is not what you put into it, it is what the client or customer gets out of it. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Starbucks Morning. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Paula Tanzi, and I'm on staff here at Suburban West, and I have been trained to train others on DocuSign, and that's what we're going to do today. As Steve mentioned before we started, we have 2 audiences today. We have the audience here in our Malvern classroom, and we also have a webinar audience attending over the internet. In order to make this presentation effective for both, we're going to ask you to hold your questions until it's time for questions. That's why each of you here in the classroom today were given pen and paper as you came in. As we go through the demonstration, if you have questions, I ask you to please write them down. And when we are ready to break for questions, then we'll take them in the order that we can do so. We'll try to alternate between the webinar audience and the audience here today. So I'm going to start us off today on our website, suburbanwestrealtors.com. And under Tools and Services, you can go to Online Transaction Tools, and from here you'll see the 3 online transaction tools that are now available to all Suburban West members by virtue of your membership, so there's no additional charge for these. The first one is Zip Forms, where you can complete the PAR standard forms. The second one is DocuSign, the one that we will demonstrate today, and as the title or the name suggests, DocuSign is where you sign documents. And then at the bottom of the list is DocuSign Transaction Rooms, which was formerly known as Cartavi. And DocuSign Transaction Rooms is where you can bring all of the documents that are part of an individual transaction and share them with others. So on the DocuSign section of this page, if I were to go to the first link on the page, click here, it would take me to DocuSign.com, which is the home page for DocuSign. For those of you that like to bookmark the login page, you want to bookmark DocuSign.net, which is where I'm going to go next. You always log in with your email address, and this is the email address that you have assigned to your DocuSign account. So I'm just going to do that, and hopefully I will type it correctly the first time. Good. And that will take you to the home screen of DocuSign. On the right-hand side, you'll see Getting Started and Need Help. And from here, you can access tutorials, webinars. You can access a community where you can ask questions if you have any concerns about how to use the program. But truly, the best way to get to know DocuSign is to practice. For all intents and purposes, you have an unlimited number of envelopes in DocuSign. So it's okay to find a partner, and we encourage it. Find a partner and practice. Send things to each other, try out the different features of the program, and see what it looks like from the sending side as well as from the receiving side. Again, you have for all intents and purposes, unlimited envelopes. And once you're done with the practice envelopes, you can just delete them to get them out of your way. The envelope status screen, we will talk about that later in the program. Today I'm going to start with your DocuSign ID card. I'm going to click Edit on the DocuSign ID card on our home page. And just so you know, I could have also gotten here by going up to my little button on the top right hand of the screen and hitting Preferences. It would have taken me to this screen as well. This is your DocuSign business card, your DocuSign ID card. The first thing that I like to recommend is that you add your photo. I will show you later in the process when we send our buyer agency contract to the buyers where this little card is going to pop up. One of the things that you need to know about DocuSign is that when the signor, the recipient of your message, of your document, receives it, it will come from dse@docusign.net. You don't need to write that down or remember it. I'm simply pointing out that it will come from someone that they don't recognize. There are several places within the program where you can personalize the message so that your recipients will know that it comes from you, and this is one of them. It will have your name, which my name for this account is DocuSign Training, and then you can also add your photo. I'm going to click Edit again. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of the little business card. And here is what my DocuSign signature looks like. DocuSign will let me edit that. And it provides several stock fonts, pictures of what DocuSign Training will look like if I adopt this as my initial and signature. As we go through the program today, I'm going to suggest that you star certain things if you're taking notes, and this is the first one. You want to make sure that you, as well as the person that's receiving this, understands that the picture of the signature, the curlicues, the ink, is not what's important. This could be very difficult for a client who's getting ready to sign something using DocuSign for the first time. Before we had electronic signatures, we were all told that the ink, the shape of our signature, that was very important. It was very personal to us. And it's how we would be able to validate that it was, in fact, us that signed that piece of paper. When it comes to electronic signatures, however, this ink is not what matters. What matters is the number at the bottom. My number starts C1228. You don't need to know that, but that number will be assigned to me every time I sign a document using this account. The way the signature looks is not what's important. The way we will validate that it was Paula Tanzi or DocuSign Trainer in this case will be by the numbers. Having said that, some people are a little bit attached to their signature. They like the way it looks and they want to continue to use it. So if that's the case, in your own account, you can go up to the top. The right-hand hyperlink is Upload. And if you click Upload and you have a picture of your signature, you simply need to write your signature on a piece of paper. Generally, dark ink on white paper works best. Upload it as a picture file. You can then bring it into DocuSign, and it will then become the signature that you use when you sign. You can also draw your signature. That takes a lot of practice. It's kind of like signing the signature pad at the Acme. It doesn't show up very well, but if you're good at that, I say you should go for it. Lastly, as realtors, because this is a realtor-based account, you can also demonstrate the fact that you are a realtor by clicking I am a realtor. They'll ask you for your NRDS ID number. If you don't know that, staff is happy to provide it for you. Your last name, and validate. That sends a ping out to NAR to validate that you are, in fact, a realtor, and then you'll be able to use the realtor symbol on your signature. It will automatically appear each time you sign. So I'm going to cancel out of this. This is the signature that I will use. I'm going to hit Done. Lastly, on the Preferences page, I want to draw your attention to Manage Email Notifications. DocuSign is an email-based program similar to Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Every time something happens with your DocuSign account, you will get an email notification based on the items that are checked here. I'm not going to go over all of them. It's certainly something you can check for yourself. I like to recommend that if you're first starting out with DocuSign, that perhaps you leave all of them checked, because this way DocuSign will tell you when something's happening with the account, and it will alert you to come and take whatever action you need to take. As you become more familiar with the program, as you find yourself in it more often, you'll find that you don't need to have the email notifications all the time. Let me just give you a demonstration or an explanation of how one of them works, and the rest you can check on your own. Second from the bottom, under I am a sender, it says, an envelope that I have sent has been viewed. So if I were to have that item checked, every time I send out an envelope to someone to sign, every time I send them a document, when they open the email, I will get a message that says they have viewed it. If they finish the document, we're done. But if they then close the email, go away, and come back, I will then get another email that they have viewed it. That's kind of a good one, I think, to keep checked as a realtor, because it's going to help you understand that maybe the client doesn't understand what it is that you sent them, and you need to give them a call. But you'll decide which of these items you want email notifications for and which ones you decide you don't need. Once you do make any changes, click Save, and you can go back at any time. It's not a one-time thing. You can go back and change it whenever you like. So with that, I'm going to go back to our home screen. And what we're going to do is demonstrate the sending of a buyer agency contract. We're going to bring it into DocuSign. We're going to tell DocuSign what to do with it. We're going to send it out to our buyers, Emma and Zachary Jones, and we will also demonstrate what the client will see when they receive the email and how they will go about signing it. So I'm going to go right up to the top and say Start a New Envelope. So what is an envelope? Well, if you think back to before we had electronic signatures, if you wanted to get a document signed, you would choose the document, you'd complete it, you would identify who and where they needed to sign. Many of us had purchased those little arrows that said sign here. We would attach those, put the document in an envelope, and then we would somehow deliver that envelope to the people that needed to sign. Whether we mailed it or carried it around in person, somehow we would have that envelope delivered. Then once everyone signed in the appropriate places, we would make copies and make sure that everyone who signed the document got a copy. Well, DocuSign is going to make that a lot more efficient for you. We're going to tell DocuSign what document needs to be signed. We're going to tell DocuSign who and where they should sign, and then DocuSign's going to do all the delivering. DocuSign's going to make sure that each recipient receives it and actually follows through. And when the process is done, DocuSign will also make sure that everyone who did sign or who I have designated to receive a copy does receive a copy. So the first thing we need to do is bring in the document. There are multiple ways that you can bring a document into DocuSign. One way is to bring it directly from zip forms, and I'm going to demonstrate that at the end of the program. Another way is to choose an online document. If you use any of the cloud storage programs listed here, and this list grows regularly, but right now it's Box, Dropbox, Evernote, Google Drive, Salesforce, and SkyDrive. If you use any of those and you store documents there, you can certainly bring them in from there. I'm going to browse from my computer. I'm going to bring in a document that I have previously saved on my desktop. I simply click Browse from my computer. Here is my desktop. I find the document that I need, double-click it, and DocuSign will load it. Now that's a little small. It's tough to see. I want to verify that it is the document. I simply click on it once, and it will magnify so that I can read, and I see that it is my buyer agency contract for Emma and Zachary Jones. Now if I were to discover that it was a mistake, that it wasn't the document that I wanted, I can simply go over to this item that says Actions, which has a drop-down. Go to Replace Document. DocuSign would say, okay, Paula, tell us which document you want. It would take the buyer agency out and put in the document that I then selected. But this is the one that I want, so I'm not going to do that. I can put as many documents, as many forms into this envelope as I want. I might also load, for example, the consumer notice. Typically, the consumer notice and the buyer agency contract would go together. And if I were to do so, if I were to load the consumer notice right now, it would appear in order as number 2. What you have to remember is that when you load multiple documents, the order that they are presented here is the order that they will appear to the person you send it to sign. The nice thing about it is that these numbers are changeable. So if I were to load the consumer notice second, but I really want it to be first, I simply change the numbers. Or drag and drop, if you like that. Just keep that in mind that when you're loading multiple documents, it will appear as a PDF to the person you've asked to sign it, and it will appear in the order that the numbers are in this section. So make sure you change those if that's necessary. Now that I've told DocuSign which document needs to be signed, I need to tell it who needs to sign it. So I have 2 buyers. My first buyer is Emma Jones. And I've actually sent things to Emma before. So she automatically, DocuSign tries to autofill because I've used Emma before. So be very careful. Just like sending an email, your email program typically will autofill for you. And I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I know I myself have sent an email to the wrong person because I clicked too quickly. So you do want to watch out for that. And certainly if Emma had not already been someone I sent things to, I would put her name where it says recipient name and her email where it says recipient email. It's pretty intuitive. I am then going to say add signer. I want Emma to sign this document. And when I do, she appears on the right-hand side, her email address and her name, and her action is sign. So I also need Zachary to sign. Now Zachary is a bit of a technophobe. He does not enjoy technology at all. In fact, he doesn't even have his own email address. So we're actually going to end up sending this document to Emma and Zachary at the same email address. I'm going to show you how DocuSign will differentiate that for them. So I'm going to add Zach as a signer. The next person to sign will be myself. I am the buyer agent here. DocuSign makes that really easy. If you go to add me next to the recipient email, if you could click add me, because this is my account, DocuSign will automatically add me as a signer as well. So this is the second thing that I would like you to star. Be careful not to add yourself unless you actually have to sign the document. For example, if this was an agreement of sale, I don't need to sign that, just my buyers do. What I'm finding is that some people are adding themselves because they mistakenly think that they have to do that in order to get a copy at the end of the day. This is my DocuSign account. I am the originator of the sending. Therefore, I will automatically get a copy of the signed document at the end. The problem with adding yourself as a signer when you don't, in fact, need to sign is that after, in this case, let's say it was the agreement of sale, and I added myself as a signer, Emma would sign, Zachary would sign, and the document would simply sit there waiting for me to sign. There's nowhere for me to sign, but DocuSign doesn't know that. All it knows is that I told it I needed to sign, so the document can't be completed unless I do. So do not add yourself unless you actually do need to sign the document. Now I can also add anyone additional. These are all the signers on this document. I can add anyone else that perhaps I think needs to receive a copy. For example, I have, oops, helps if I spell his name right. I have an assistant. His name is Clark Kent. I want to add Clark as a CC. On the left is add signer. On the right is add CC. So DocuSign, because I told to add Clark as a copy, automatically puts Clark at the end. I can add anyone else I want here. A little distinction on the receive a copy. It defaults to receive a copy, but if I were to click to the drop-down, I can also choose acknowledge receipt. The difference is receive a copy simply means at the end of this process, Clark will get a copy in his email. If I choose acknowledge receipt, before Clark can see the document, he will have to click a button in the email that says he received it. It's similar to a read or a delivery receipt on your email, only it's better. The read or delivery receipt on your email can be ignored by the recipient. They can bypass that and still see the document. In DocuSign, they cannot. So when I send this to him and say acknowledge receipt, he must acknowledge receipt before he can even get the document. So DocuSign is very situational. You'll decide where you think that's necessary or appropriate. Just use the one that works for you in the particular situation. If I go here, underneath the order numbers is a blue link. It says order diagram. If I click on the order diagram, DocuSign now is going to show me how this document will be sent. I am DocuSign trainer. I started it because all three of us have a number 1. I, Emma, and Zachary will all receive an email at the same time. It doesn't matter what order we sign in, the way it's set up now. When that's done, Clark will get a copy, and then the document is complete, and everyone will get a copy of the completed document. I'm not really comfortable with that personally, and you'll decide, again, based on each situation and each document. I want to set an order, however, for mine, and I do that simply the same way I would have done it for the documents up above. I want myself to sign last. I'm going to let Zach go second because, like I said, he's not real comfortable with this, so we'll let Emma go first. So now Emma will receive it first, then Zach, then myself. If I click, and I want Clark to be number 4. There we go. If I look at the order diagram now, oh, it's not letting me, let me pull it down here. If I look at the order diagram now, It goes to DocuSign training, then it will go to Emma. It will stop there until Emma completes signing. Once she completes her signing, automatically a message will go to Zachary. When he completes, automatically a message will come to me to sign, and then automatically the copy will go to Clark, and all of us will get a completed copy. I'm going to take Clark off of here because I want to make our demonstration go a little more smoothly. But know that you can add as many signers and as many receive-a copies as you like. You'll decide what is appropriate for the situation. Emma and Zachary are sharing the same email address. In a little bit, I'm going to show you where you can personalize the message to each of them to help them distinguish. They will actually, in their email, they will actually receive one. The first one will say, Dear Emma, and the second one will say, Dear Zachary, because I've identified them in the name. So if you're sending it to someone with the same email address, don't put Emma and Zachary in the name. Put Emma in one, create a second spot for Zachary so that they will now each get a separate email addressed to them. But if I have further concerns that they're going to be confused, I can add an access code. Under the Identify tab, it defaults to email. The drop-down allows me to add an access code. So I might tell Emma, yours is going to be ABCDE. And Zach, yours is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The AC means that I have added an access code. So this means that when the email arrives, in order for Emma to open it, she's going to have to enter ABCDE, and Zach. So that's how that will be an extra level of clarification for them if I feel that it's necessary. How are they going to get this access code? Only if I send it to them. It obviously will not appear in the message that DocuSign sends because that would defeat the purpose of setting it up to begin with. I can text it to them. I can call them up. In some fashion, I'm going to say, hey, Emma, your access code is 1, 2, 3, 4, or ABCDE. Don't tell Zach. Hey, Zach, yours is, and don't tell Emma. This works great if you have the same email address for people. It also works in any situation where you are concerned about the recipient and whether or not maybe are they the only one that's accessing their email, or you have concerns about identity. You will choose when and how you want to use the access code. Something I'd like you to understand, though, is that not using an access code does not make the signature any less valid. It just helps you clarify situations where you have concerns. Again, I do want to keep this demonstration smooth, so we're going to take the access code out of there, but know that you can use it should you decide you need to. We're going to ask questions at the end. Next, DocuSign allows us to personalize this, to add a message. The first message will be to everyone on the recipient list, all of the signers as well as Clark if I had left him there, or anyone else, anyone to receive as a signer or to receive a copy will get this message. This is the subject line that will appear in the message. It's 100 characters long. You can put up to 100 characters. DocuSign defaults to please sign, and then it names the document as I had named it in my file. Zachary and Emma really don't know what BAC means, so I'm going to just say, please sign buyer agency contract. And here's a practice tip. This is not required. This is not required at all. But what I might also do is say it's from P. Tansey, because remember that email's coming from dsc@docusign.net. But then they'll see the subject line that says it's from me. I think that will help them to understand that this is a safe thing for them to open. And the general message is something that I want them all to see. Now these guys are both on my side. Basically they're both my clients, so that the message, I don't have to be too choosy about the message. But you do want to be careful. There may be situations where you are cooperating with maybe I'm sending an agreement of sale and I'm cooperating with the listing agent where we're going to try to get everybody on the same certificate, on the same document. So this message can't be anything that's personal to my clients because I don't want the sellers or the listing agent to see it. So I'm just going to write sign when it is your turn, and I'm going to put my name. I can put anything else I want. Perhaps I want to put my email address or my phone number or something else, but again, they're going to see it's from me and have an opportunity to recognize that and not be fearful of the DSC at DocuSign.net. Next, DocuSign lets me add a specific note to each person. Everyone that I have identified to receive this, Emma, Zachary, and myself, can get a special note. So I'm going to add one for Emma. I'm going to say, Emma, you are first to sign. Please note the expiration date. Emma and I had a conversation. I wanted it to be one thing. She wanted it to be something shorter, and I want her to see that I actually did what she asked me to do or what we agreed to. So I'm telling her to please note the expiration date. I am also going to add a special note for Zach. Remember, Zach's my technophobe. Hi, Zach. Please call me when you receive this. Because even though Zach is going to sign electronically, there's no reason why he can't call me and I can't talk him through it over the phone to make sure that he does all of the things that he needs to do. I could also add a note for myself, but that kind of doesn't make sense, so I'm not going to. The last thing we need to do before we move over to tagging the document is to look at the envelope settings. This is very important. At the present time, DocuSign defaults to a setting of 120 days before this envelope will expire. That's roughly 4 months. That means that this envelope will be active for 4 months. At the present time, it is a default setting, so this is another thing that I want you to star. Always check the expiration date and change it. I can't think of any real estate document that we want hanging out there for 4 months. I'm going to choose 10 for mine. You'll choose whatever you want for the documents that you're sending. If this were an agreement of sale, I would probably make it 3 or something like that. Excuse me. So I'm going to make it 10, and when I make it 10, you'll see that the date at the top here changes to April 11th, which is 10 days from today. And what that means is that on April 12th, this document will no longer be available. If they don't finish signing it before the 11th, on the 12th, if one of them were to open one of the messages that I have sent them and try to sign the document, they would get a message that says, I'm sorry, you can't do that, this is expired. So this is a way for you to control when they can sign it or for how long it will be available for them to sign. I can also set reminders. Again, situational, you'll decide when reminders make sense and when they don't. With reminders enabled, I can say, for example, that after 2 days I want a reminder to go out, and then maybe for every day after that, every other day after that, I want another reminder. What that means is that on April, today's the 1st, so on April 3rd, a reminder will go out to all those who haven't signed. So let's say Emma gets this right away and signs it right away, but Zach doesn't. The reminders will only go to Zach. So the reminders will not bother everyone on your list. It'll only bother the person who's next. To say, hey, you have something. It just basically resends the email and says, here it is, please do what you need to do. So now that I've told DocuSign what document, I've told it who and where, I've attached my messages and set my envelope settings, now I'm ready to tag it. Now I'm ready to tell DocuSign where this document should be signed. And I am going to... Okay, so this is the buyer agency contract. It has 3 pages. I need initials on page 1, I need initials on page 2, and I need signatures on page 3. On the far right of the screen, 1, 2, 3, this represents the pages. I can simply scroll through the document by hitting the 1, 2, and the 3. I'd like you to make a note to yourself that they are now yellow. I mean, they're gray. They're going to turn yellow as we go through. And I'll help you with that in a moment. But right now, when you first start, they are gray. So I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of page 1. And the first person that I want to assign is Emma. I would like to assign an initial tag for her. How do I know that it's Emma's tag I am applying? Well, there's a couple of ways. First of all, up in the To box, Emma's name is bolded. That tells me that whatever tags I assign right now will be for Emma. Additionally, on the left-hand side, there's an item that says tag for, and Emma's name is there. And lastly, when I grab the initial tag, Emma's name appears at the top. So the program does work pretty hard to make sure that you know where you are at any one time. I'm simply going to drag the tag, apply it to the initial spot. Now I could now go to page 2 and apply her initials, and page 3 apply her signatures, or I can stay on this page and do the entire page. Notice that number 1 has now changed to yellow. That means that there is a tag on this page. There are no tags on page 2 or 3. This is a nice check. If you're working with a rather lengthy document and one of the pages is still gray, you know that you missed one. Know, however, that it turns yellow as soon as I apply a tag. DocuSign doesn't know how many tags are required on this page, so it won't be able to tell me that. It will only be able to tell me that I have, in fact, done something to this page. So I'm going to stay on page 1, and I'm going to switch to Zach. And all I have to do is go up to Zach, click his name, and now he is bolded. In the drop-down menu, now I have Zachary's name. And when I grab the initial tag, it says Zachary. Now I want to change to add my own tag. I'm going to go to the drop-down menu. I'm going to choose DocuSign Trainer because that's who I am for today. Notice that DocuSign Trainer is now bolded. And when I grab the initial, it will say DocuSign Training. I didn't leave myself enough room. There we go. This little red X over here, if it was the wrong tag, I simply hit the X and it will go away, and I can then go and grab the correct one. Be very careful about that. I strongly recommend that you use the little red X. If you could also just drag it off the screen, but if you don't drag it completely off the screen, if you happen to drop it by mistake before you get there, it could be a hidden tag and the document won't finish because DocuSign thinks there's something else that needs to be signed. So I highly recommend that you use the little X rather than dragging it off. So now we're going to go to page 2 and we're just going to repeat the process. I'm going to go to Zachary. Notice that I am choosing initials rather than the optional initial. These yellow tags are the ones that require activation. We have signature, optional signature, initial, and optional initial. The ones without the word initial, optional are required. Now on the buyer agency contract, I require the initials and I require the signature. I do not want the client to be able to complete signing of the document without having put all of those in place. So it's important that I choose the required initial. If I chose the optional initial, the client would be able to finish signing the document without applying their initial to that spot. If I were to try to apply it by accident, if you can see down here at the bottom there are red letters, and those red letters say optional. So again, the program does try to make sure that we know what we're doing or recognize what we're doing. The optional tag, again, could be skipped by the signer and they would still be able to finish the document. And in this particular case, that would be a problem. So now I'm going to move to page 3, and on page 3 I need signatures. So I'm going to go to the required signature. Did I apply? I did. Okay, notice I applied Zachary twice. You know what, I'm going to leave it there for right now because I'll show you where I could catch that later if I didn't catch it now. So I am in Zachary's signature, so I'm going to put him there. I'm also going to grab the date signed. The ones down here in gray are not activated by the signer. Most of them are activated automatically. And by putting the date signed here, when Zach applies his signature, the date will automatically appear. Now this is something else that I want you to star, because there's no other way for the client to date their signature unless you put date signed on there. This is all being done electronically. I can't put my pen on the computer and apply the date. So don't forget the date signed. And you notice that when I grabbed it, I'm still on Zachary, so it is tied to Zachary. It is tied to when his signature tag is activated. So I'm going to apply Emma's signature and Emma's date signed, and then I will do my own. Okay. Now for those of you that like myself, like everything to line up and look pretty. I'm not real comfortable with Emma and Zach being separated. But what this means is that Emma's signature will start here, Zachary's signature will start there. Personally, I'm not real fond of that, so I just want to show you quickly how you can align things. I just left-click my mouse and draw a gray box around the items that I want to line up. These last 4 items here are alignment tags. I'm going to tell them I want them to align left, and there they line up. It saves you from having to inch things over by really small increments. I've tagged the document so it's ready to send. I forget what number star we're up to. I think it's 4 or 5, but this is another thing that I want you to star. Preview your document. DocuSign does not know what the document is. It does not know where the tag should go. If I make a mistake, it's on me. So when I preview, it takes me back to page 1. Right now I'm on Emma, so there's Emma's tag. I can auto advance through the document here, and when I go to page 2, it jumps over page 2 because I missed her. Right, remember, I put 2 Zachs instead of an Emma. Okay, that's a problem. I simply can say go back. All right, let me go to page 2 and figure out what I did wrong. When I click here, oh, that says Zach. When I click here, that says Zach. Okay, no problem. I'm just going to take it out, and I'm going to apply, oh, I'm doing it again. And I'm going to apply Emma's initials. But hopefully that shows you how important that preview is. Preview, preview, preview. By previewing, again, now I'm looking at Emma's initials. They're all there. I can go to Zach and look at his, and I can go to mine and look at mine as well. Crucial step. If you hit send, it actually will prompt with a dialog box that says, are you sure you don't want to preview? But you can also turn that off. Some people will click it and say, don't remind me about that. Let it remind you. It's so important, because if I were to send this out with the inappropriate tags and the clients were to sign it based on what I tagged, I'm the one that messed up and I'd have to start all over. So I'm ready to send. So I'm in my sent folder now. Here is the doc. Oh, that's not the one. Today's April 1st. There we go. I could also go out to my out for signature folder and find it a little bit easier. Here it is. Underneath, this is like a glorified mailbox basically, and when I find the document that I'm trying to track, down where you might normally see an email message, I see the status of my document. It was sent by DocuSign training at 9:38, just a couple minutes ago. Next to sign is Emma, and awaiting signature are Zachary and myself. So I will know at all points along the way where it is. I'm going to go to Emma and Zach's email right now. Okay, that's right. And we're going to see what it looks like for them. Hopefully. Okay, here we go. They have a please from P. Tansy. This is the subject line that I had given them. I'm going to open that up so you can see it a little better. So it came from that DSE at DocuSign.net, but they know it's from Paula. Here is the message. Now notice it says Emma Jones. It's Dear Emma. So she knows it's for her, not for Zach, and Zach should hopefully know it's for her and not for him. From me, here's the special note that I gave Emma at the bottom. This will only appear to Emma, and I'll show you that. We'll look at Zach later. Emma, you are first to sign. Please note the expiration date. And she can now click on Review Documents. Those of you that are in the room, that's probably a little bit hard to read when it blows up on the screen, but it says in black ink under on top of the red Review Documents. It's quite clear on the computer, however, when they receive it in their email. Emma and Zach do not have DocuSign accounts, so the first thing they have to do is say, I agree to do business electronically. Before they even acknowledge that by clicking this little box, they can't do anything. So no one that you send these to will be able to sign electronically until they have said, I agree to do so. So that's the first step. Now she can review the document. She could also decline, and if she did, I would get a message that says, Emma declined. Hey, Emma, what's wrong? Give her a call. And then she could also click Finish Later, which means this would all close. And the next time she goes in, I'd get a message that said she viewed it again. But she's not going to do that. She's going to review the document. Here's that special note that I left her. Anytime you add a special note to a signer, it will appear on the document as well. So this is a great place to put personal messages or to draw their attention to things that you want them to see. I want Emma to take a look at the expiration date. Perhaps you're sending the agreement of sale and you want to ask the client to pay close attention to the inspection options to make sure that they are selected properly. Anything you want to draw their attention to, if you put it in the note, it reappears on the document as a reminder to them. Now before Emma goes on to sign, she can download the document and look at it. She can print it to look at it. She could also scroll through. Make sure the client understands, however, that if they want to read the document before they start clicking, they need to do one of those three things. Download it and look at it, print it and look at it. Hopefully you have reviewed it with them before they even get it. I'm sure that you have, but they may want to look at it again. Because as you'll note, once we start clicking things, it's going to go through pretty quickly, and they're not really going to have an opportunity to look at what it is they're signing. So DocuSign tells them what to do. It says start, okay. The initial is blinking, so she clicks on her initial. And now she has to adopt what her signature is going to look like. Just like you did when you set up your program, she now needs to do that as well. It automatically populates with her name. It chooses her first and last name initials, and it gives her this signature. She can change the style, similar to what you did when you set up your ID card. And here's where you need to explain to the consumer, hey, it's not going to be what you think it is. It's the number that matters. It's the number that matters. Emma's started with FFC6, or yeah, C6. If somebody wants to write that down, we're going to remember that for later. FFC6. Emma could, if she wanted to, change her name. Maybe she says, hey, I like my middle initial, L. Now, most of you, I know, would take care of that ahead of time. You would know how your client wanted their name to appear on the contract. But she could, if she wanted to, change it to Emma L. Jones. Now, what I'm about to show you is not something you want to tell the signer they can do. I am showing it to you because when you come across the person who thinks that they're a kidder and wants to do this, you will understand that the document will still be valid. Emma could say, I want to be Wonder Woman. I want to sign this document as Wonder Woman. So she changes her name. And as soon as DocuSign catches up, there you go. It changed her signature to Wonder Woman. And if she goes through and signs this, it is still going to be a valid buyer agency contract because of a couple of things. First of all, it's the number is who she is for this document, not her name. Think back as well to those people, there's probably a few in this room, who have signatures that we can't read. It's still them. We would witness their signature to validate that it is them, is they. DocuSign validates it by these numbers. So it doesn't matter if you come across a wise guy or a wise woman who wants to change their identity. The additional check on this is before she can click adopt an initial, there are these words at the bottom. And I'm going to read them aloud for the audience in the room because they're a little bit small on the screen. But they say, by clicking adopt, I agree that the signature and initials will be the electronic representation of my signature and initials for all purposes when I or my agent use them on documents including legally binding contracts, just the same as a pen and paper signature or initial. So even if she were to do this, it's still Emma. She would have a tough time getting out of this contract. So again, you can see why you don't want to tell them they can do that, but I want you to know that if someone were to do that, it doesn't change the document. So she's going to adopt her initials. Her initials appear, and if it doesn't automatically go to the next page, she can click next, and it will. She clicks initial again. It brings her down to her signature. Notice the date has already been populated, April 1st. If she were to close this and come up back tomorrow, it would say April 2nd. She's going to sign here. Now at this point, Emma can still get out of this. She can still undo her signatures and initial by dropping out of the program, by dropping out of the email. Once she hits confirm signing, however, her signature and initials are now on that document. This is a step that sometimes people get confused and don't do. She thinks she's done. There's not, and it says all required fields complete. If she's not paying attention and recognizing that she has to hit confirm signing, she may drop out. And I'm in my dashboard where I showed you earlier, it says awaiting Emma's signature. It's still going to say awaiting Emma's signature. So when I call her and say, hey Emma, how come you didn't sign? And she's going to say, but Paula, I did. I went through and activated all the tags. Remember in your own mind that it's possible that she forgot to confirm her signing. And if she forgets to confirm a signing, she needs to reopen the email and start the process again, go through all of the clicks. Because if I drop out of this, all of those tags will be deactivated. Once she's done, she gets a message. She can now view the document. Share your experience, just so everyone knows, simply means, it's advertising for DocuSign. It simply means that if she had a Facebook account, it would go to Facebook and say, I have signed a document using DocuSign. It does not mean this document appears on Facebook. I had a couple questions about that, so I wanted to make that clear. But she's done. She's going to get out of here, and we're going to close that. And we're going to go back to Emma and Zach's email address. It's going to take a second to load. Let me go back here. So Emma is done. DocuSign will automatically send a message to Zach, and oh, that's not good. All right, no problem. We can simply log back in. So an automatic message will go to Zach. Oh, there we go. There we go. And it didn't. That's not good. So let me go back to DocuSign and see what the problem is. It still thinks that Emma needs to sign, which is highly unusual. Oh, there it is. It was just delayed. Did you see that second email pop up? Okay. So this is the one to Zach. And notice it says Zachary. Okay? The program will tell them who it's for because I gave them the individual names. At the bottom it says, hi Zach, please give me a call when you receive this. He's going to do the same thing that Emma did, review the document. He has to acknowledge that he wants to do business electronically. Hey Zach, give me a call. Zach's tired of everyone telling him that he doesn't know what he's doing, so he's going to ignore that. And he's going to go down and he sees next, so he clicks next. Okay, there's my initial. It told me to initial. Told you, Zach's not real sure. He's going to do the same thing that Emma did, adopt his initial. Takes him down to sign. Notice the date still says April 1st. Again, if he did it tomorrow, it would say April 2nd. He's going to sign and watch what happens. Because I used required initials, the program automatically took him back to the initial that he skipped. That's the difference between the required and the optional initials. If I hadn't chosen an optional initial, it would have let him finish because DocuSign says optional means he doesn't have to do it, so he probably skipped it on purpose. Optional signatures are optional, required signatures are required. So it takes him back and says, you really have to do this, so he does. He confirms his signing. And again, he can do that. So now we're going to go back to DocuSign, which is going to make me log back in again because essentially they were in DocuSign as they were signing. So just give me a second. I told you I would talk about envelope status later. Now's the time. So envelope status tells me that I have 7 completed envelopes. I have 2 of them out for signature, and I have 1 awaiting my signature. I happen to know that this is the one that's awaiting my signature because I know I assigned myself to sign. If I look down here, it was sent. It was signed by Emma. It tells me when. It was signed by Zachary. It tells me when. And now it tells me that it's time for me to sign. I can simply open the message. I don't have to click the box saying I agree to do business electronically because I've already done that when I set up my DocuSign account. And something I glossed over on Emma and Zach, and I shouldn't have, but if you recall, this box showed up for them as well. Before they hit review document, it said DocuSign training on their box where they had to click and accept electronic signatures. Here's my ID card. This is where when you put your photo in there, it's going to have your name and your photo. And again, it's just a further reinforcement. That's why I suggested that you put your photo in that ID card. All right, I want to review the document. I'm going to sign. Initial. I'm going to sign here. And all the documents are complete. Now when I go to my completed folder, because this is a completed document, here it is. It shows me that everything has been signed. I'm actually going to minimize this just a little bit so we can all see. There's a little drop-down arrow next to each of these envelopes that I have sent. Now that it is completely signed, and as I said earlier, DocuSign is the validation. DocuSign is the witness for each of the signatures. What I want to make sure I have a copy of, and will automatically be generated, is the certificate. This is the next thing I want you to star. You want to make sure that you get the certificate for each of the documents. Now this certificate will stay in my DocuSign account for as long as that item is in my DocuSign folder there. But if you have other people that need to receive it, maybe your transaction coordinator, maybe your, if this is an agreement of sale, perhaps the mortgage company wants to see this, because this is how they're going to validate that the signatures are the people who they say they are. It's a pretty simple document. Looks a little complicated, but basically at the top identifies what it is we had sent for signature. And then the signing events. Emma, Zachary, myself, their IP address. Now because we did this demonstration all from the same computer, the IP address is the same, but it would obviously change if they signed it themselves on a different device. The timestamp tells me when it was sent to Emma, when she viewed it. If she had viewed it multiple times, that would have showed up as well. When she signed it, same thing for Zach, same thing for myself. Now, if over here on the left-hand side, security level is email, that's the default. If I had given them the access code we spoke about earlier, it would show that I had applied access code, and it would tell me what the access code was. And at this point, it's okay for it to be published because they've already used it. Down below, if I had sent Clark a copy, a CC, under carbon copy events, I would see Clark and his information as to when he received it. And if I had sent it to Clark using acknowledge receipt, it would appear under certified delivery events, because that is what acknowledge receipt is, basically a certified delivery. The last pages of the certificate are that consumer disclosure, that thing that everybody checked to say I will do business electronically. It appears on each certificate because it explains what it is they agreed to do. So let me just go back again one moment to Emma and Zach's email, and please don't time out on me. There we go. DocuSign sent each of them separately a completed document. So I'm just going to open one of them. Let's open Emma's. Your document has been completed. Now there were two of them because they each signed individually. If they had separate email addresses, it would have gone to their individual email addresses. They can then now open DocuSign and view the document, but it's also attached to the message. So if she opens it, here's the DocuSign envelope ID, and there's all the signatures, the initials, and the signatures. The other thing that is attached to the message, wrong one, I'm sorry. Not only is the agency contract that they all signed attached, but so is the certificate. It's called summary when they receive it in their email, but it is that same certificate that we just looked at. So anyone who was designated as a recipient, either as a signer or as to receive a copy, would be getting the certificate with it. That's important because it'll help you if you want to include someone to receive a copy. They will automatically get the certificate. You don't have to make sure that you send it to them. You want to make sure that anyone who is getting this document has the certificate to verify the signatures. If I am, let's say, working on an agreement of sale, and my buyer clients are going to sign electronically, and I'm going to send it to Sandy, and her sellers are going to sign in ink. First of all, know that that document is valid. Half ink and half electronic signatures are valid. But when I send the document to Sandy, I want to make sure she has the certificate with it as well, because the certificate tells her and anyone else that looks at this that my buyers were in fact validated and witnessed. If it were the other way around, if I were to send Sandy that document that my buyer signed electronically and I didn't include the certificate, she should be asking me for it. And I want to emphasize that you should ask for it right away. Don't wait. The certificate will stay with the document in my DocuSign account as long as my account is active and as long as I don't accidentally or on purpose delete it. If I delete the transaction from my completed folder or close my DocuSign account, not even DocuSign can go back in and get that certificate. So please make sure that if you are on the receiving end of an electronically signed document that you get the certificate right away. Don't wait, because you never know what might happen to that person's account. Okay, we're going to take a brief break for questions, and then we'll move on to the integration of zip forms and DocuSign. So we're going to try to alternate between the audience here and the webinar audience. And Steve, I'm going to turn to you. Do we have a webinar question?
We don't, but you may give them a reminder about how to answer the questions. I chatted over them a couple times.
Sure. So those of you that are participating via webinar, you can use the question function in the control bar, which is on the right hand of your screen. You simply type in a question and hit return. It will appear on Steve's screen, and he will then be able to relay the question to me. So with that, I'm going to ask then the audience here who has a question. Sandy, I think you had one earlier. Did we answer it?
Well, I guess my question was in regard to two people with the same email address, and the reason that you would want to give them separate notes and separate IDs. Is that because they shouldn't be looking at each other? I mean, would that be a routine thing that you would do if you have a husband and wife?
Sure.
Share the same email. Would you need to necessarily do that?
Okay, so Sandy's asking about clarification between the husband and wife using the same email address, such as our example, Emma and Zachary, and you'll choose what level of clarification you want to put on there. The notes and the messages will help, because I can say Dear Emma and Dear Zach. The program itself will default to Dear Emma and Dear Zach. And then if you feel that there's further clarification needed, that those access codes is a great way. It's not that they shouldn't be looking at each other's email, but you want to make sure that it's Emma that clicks her tags and Zachary that clicks his. So the access codes could help with that. In the back? Okay, so the question is that on the certificate there's an item for notary events. I'll just open the certificate again and let's take a look at that down below. Notary events is, DocuSign does have the ability to apply notary seals if that is required for the document. It's highly advanced topic that's required for most of our transactions and not something we're training on at this time. But if we were in a situation where a notary was required, that's where the information on who the notary was and when they did their signing, their notarizing, would appear under notarized events. It doesn't mean that this document needs to be notarized. Do we have a webinar question? Okay. Lorraine? They have to confirm signing at the end, yes. Okay, the question is when they have to confirm their signature, where does that appear? It will only appear after they have activated all of the required tags. It's at the end. Right, you do it once at the end. It says, okay, I'm done. I want this to count, basically. Yes. Did you have a question?
From Amy McKenna, how do you get the text box to use a specific font style as a default setting?
How do you get the text box to use as a default setting? I'm assuming Amy's talking about the signature, our signature style.
So you can get it to change the font, but it keeps reverting back to the standard style.
Oh, okay. So Amy's having trouble getting her signature to stick. So if we go back to the home page and we go to our DocuSign ID card, when I hit edit and I want to edit the style, come on DocuSign, thank you. So if I want to change it, I'll select the one I want to change it to, and then I have to click Adopt. If I don't, it will revert back to the signature that it had initially. So when I click Adopt, it's not only adopting, but it's changing it to the one that I chose. Lady in the orange. Okay, so when Emma and Zach were signing and they were all done, a box appeared where you could share on Facebook, and then on the left it said cancel. Cancel just means I'm getting out, I'm done. It doesn't cancel the signing. It just means I'm done with this message. We can move on to something else. Webinar question?
George Hits, when you changed to Wonder Woman, the initial did not change. You have to manually change the initial as well.
George Hitz wants to know when I changed it to Wonder Woman, why didn't the initials change to WW? I found that interesting as well. I don't know why DocuSign doesn't do that, but certainly if someone was legitimately, for example, when Emma wanted to put her middle initial in there, she does have to go over to initials and change it as well. You would think it would be a default, but for some reason it isn't. In the back there? Okay, the question is that she sent the document to her clients, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I understood what you said, instead of signing electronically, they printed it out and signed it in ink? Okay. And they left off initials. Okay, so I don't know what went wrong because I can't see what they did, but what I can tell you is when that happens, if the client gets frustrated or for whatever reason says, fine, I'm going to sign it in ink, they could print it out and they could sign. In your case, if they left off the initials, I need to take it back to them and say, here, initial here. But that does present a question. What is she going to do with that transaction that's in her DocuSign that hasn't been completed? And let me just show you that on your Manage screen. I'm going to go to my Sent. And any document that's in process, I have one here for 98 Main Street that was sent yesterday. Any document that is in process, so in this case, because my client printed it out and signed in ink, I don't need it anymore, I can simply go down and hit Void. And by voiding it, I have to give a message. So I'll say whatever I want it to say, and then I void the envelope. And when I do that, a message now goes to anyone that was supposed to sign this envelope. First, they get a message that says this envelope's void, you can no longer sign it. And should they go back and try to use the original email asking them to sign, when they click Review Documents, they will also get a message that says this document's no longer valid, it's voided. So that would be a very important step to take in your case to make sure that they don't sign two documents. I can also void any document that I want to correct. Let's say I sent out this envelope. Yes, I sent out the envelope. Emma signed it. Once she confirms signing, I can't take her initials off of it. But then Zach calls and says, hey, Paula, I noticed that the expiration date was wrong. Emma didn't pick up on it. I can't undo what Emma has already done. I can change the document, but the document I change won't have Emma's signatures. So what I want to do is void it and then resend a new document with the corrected information so that they can both sign it, the new one. And the void one will give them a message that it's void so they won't sign the wrong document. Question, Steve? Jim Fasano is asking how do we deal with the inspection options on the agreement of sale, and I'm just going to ask him to hold that question. When we show the integration from the, zip forms, I'm going to use an agreement of sale, and I'm going to explain that as we do it. Someone else from the audience here? Yes. Sure. The question was, in the previous example where the client printed it out and signed in ink, could you call the client and say, we really want to do this electronically, and perhaps walk them through using, as long as I haven't voided the envelope yet, yes, I could still go back and then just destroy the one that they signed with their permission, making sure they understand what I'm doing, of course. But the key is I don't want to have two documents signed by them. But sure, I could do that. And truly, one of the things you want to remember about DocuSign, and this will become even clearer when we talk about the inspection options, is you don't have to step away completely and let the technology do all the work. It is doing a lot of work for you, but it doesn't replace you having to explain some things to people. So there's no reason why you can't say, hey, we're going to sign this electronically because I feel it's more secure, but call me and we'll talk about it together, or meet me at the local diner and we'll still sign electronically. You bring your laptop with you, but you can explain it to them as you go through the options. Oh, any other webinar questions?
From Toby Fox, if a notary is needed, do you know if it is available subsequent to the signings?
If a notary is needed, is it available subsequent to the signings? I do not know specifically the answer, Toby, but I'm going to guess no, because I believe the notary has to be done as they sign. A notary generally is witnessing the signatures. So I believe the answer to that is no. Over here, yes. Homeowners Association document, okay. Okay, so the question is, I have my document in DocuSign, and perhaps I checked on the agreement of sale that it's a homeowner or a condominium, and the seller comes back and says, oh no, it's not. Well, it depends on where I am. I can't change it in DocuSign. What I will have to do if I sent it over from Zip Forms is I have to go over to Zip Forms and resend it. And that's how I would deal with that. Anytime you need to, counter offers cannot be done effectively using DocuSign. You want to do the negotiations before and send the document through as it is, once it's done and agreed to. Now, once the document is executed and electronically signed by both parties, and you want to make a change, let's say the settlement date's going to change, well, you can simply use a change in terms addendum that can be signed electronically, or you can take the document around and have everybody initial and sign it. There's nothing wrong with that either. Webinar question?
Yeah, from Lawrence Ostrom, if we're sending the agreement sales to a cooperating agent, what do we do after our buyer has signed?
Okay, so if I'm going to forward the document to a cooperating agent after the buyer has signed, how to do that? Is that the question? Okay. Yeah, there are ways to do that. We can certainly do an agreement of sale where everyone is included, both the buyer, the seller, on the same document, and then we can send it. There's ways to manipulate the program. It would be difficult for me to explain it verbally right now, and I think we would run out of time. It's really an advanced topic that I'd be happy to, Lawrence, give me a call and I'll do it. But it can be done. But I think today we want to stick to basics. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Webinar question. When you send multiple documents and some require a realtor signature and some documents don't, will that stop DocuSign from moving forward?
Okay, so I'm sending multiple documents. Some of them require everybody to sign in my recipient list, and some of them only require certain people. No, that won't stop DocuSign, because when I send those multiple documents to be tagged, I will simply put the appropriate tags in the appropriate places. So if the first document only needs to be signed by my buyers, that's fine. I put my buyers' tags and initials. And if the next one in the same envelope needs to have my signature on it as well, then I will apply my signature or initials as appropriate. So you control all of that. As long as you put the right tags in the right places, it'll be fine. It's when you have a stray tag or you've told DocuSign that someone should sign that doesn't need to sign is when the process will get held up.
One more webinar question.
Okay.
That's one, Christy Wolf. Can you talk a bit about the matching templates?
Can I talk about matching templates? It wasn't on the topic for today, but since the questions seem to have mellowed out, I will demonstrate it very quickly and then we'll go into Zip Forms. So if I were back into my home screen, and actually I would have done this if our internet had crashed or something like that, I could start a new envelope. I can browse from my computer for the document that I wanted, which was my buyer agency contract. If you have documents that you use over and over and over again and you want to save yourself some trouble, you can apply a template. So I actually do have a template for this training, which applies all of the messages that I just showed you, all of the tagging, all of the recipients and routing, so that if if the internet crashed and I wanted to get back to where I was really quickly, I could apply the template. So you can do that as well for documents that you use frequently, where the tags are always going to be the same. By creating the template, I would simply go, I could say apply or match. If I apply the template, it asks me for my template folders. I say I want the buyer agent, in this case I want buyer agency contract complete. And then it applied all of the stuff that I told the template to apply. You will create the template yourself by going to your home screen. I'm sorry, go to your send screen, I apologize. Oh, I have to get rid of this one before it will do that. When you go to the send screen and you don't already have one waiting as I do, it will ask you to create either a transaction, an envelope, or a template. DocuSign's a little slow this morning, so it's not releasing the one that we were previously working on. But when you go to create a template, it's the same as creating an envelope, but you'll just do the same things that we did, but you might not have the email addresses and names of the people yet. You'll just have like buyer 1. In my case, it would have been buyer 1 and buyer 2. And then you can apply the details later. All right, so let me talk about the integration from Zip Forms. I'm going to go to my Zip Forms account and log in. Now, before I can send a document from Zip Forms to DocuSign, I have to tell Zip Forms how to talk to DocuSign. This is a crucial step, and I've been taking a lot of troubleshooting calls lately from people who missed it. So this is something else you want to star. Under my name, there's a drop-down arrow. If I drop down and go to Profile, so drop-down arrow, I go to Profile. On the left-hand side, I want to choose Settings. The top box now says e-signature options. I have selected DocuSign. Make sure that you select DocuSign. The other option is ZipLogic's Digital Ink, which is Zip Forms digital signature. If you choose that one, it's going to try to charge you, so you'll know right away it's the wrong one. Choose DocuSign. And then down below where it says email and password, you need to enter your DocuSign email and your DocuSign password. Now, for some people, it's the same. They use the same email and password to get into Zip Forms and DocuSign. That's fine if that's what you choose to do. It's not required. But if you do use a different email and a different password for DocuSign, make sure that that is the one that's going in here, because what we're going to get ready to do is tell Zip Forms to talk to DocuSign. We have to tell Zip Forms how to open our DocuSign account. So these are my DocuSign credentials and my DocuSign password. The next very important step that unfortunately people are forgetting is to click Save. It does not save automatically. When I click Save, a green box, a green check appears that says User Preferences Updated. If I had made a mistake and entered the wrong email address or perhaps misspelled my password, I would get a red box that says Invalid Credentials. Once I've saved this, I don't have to do it again, unless I change the email and password for my DocuSign account. But for as long as I want these two accounts to talk, once I've done it, it's done. All right, I'm going to go over to my transactions. And Emma and Zach have entered into an agreement of sale. All right, there they are. They're going to buy a home that belongs to, at the moment, to Karen and Adam Smith. I simply go to the far right and click e-sign, sign this form. Let me make this big again so we can see the whole screen. Okay. E-sign, sign this form. Now I have to tell DocuSign who's going to do the signing. All right. In this case, I'm going to send it over for my buyers, Emma and Zach, to sign. Emma is buyer 1. Zachary is buyer 2. And I will click Done. Buyer 1 is Emma, buyer 2 is Zachary. I now have two options in the top right-hand corner. I can go to Next, which will take me immediately to the tagging screen. I recommend that you choose Options, because Options will take me to the routing screen. So by choosing options, and because I have told ZipForms to talk to DocuSign, it has now automatically opened my DocuSign account. I'm still in ZipForms, but it has opened DocuSign. The document is here. My buyers are here. The reason why I suggested that you choose options is because at this point now I can leave them messages. If I had chose next and gone directly to the tagging screen, I simply could choose go back. But some people get confused and don't realize they can do that. So if you try to always remember to choose options, you'll come here first. I can add the messages, and most importantly, I can change this expiration date. I do not want the agreement of sale hanging out there for 4 months. And then I can click Next. The beauty of sending things from ZipForms directly to DocuSign is this. This is even the revised document, hopefully at the end of this month, is 13 pages still. Let me see if I can do this without, there we go. The beauty is that the tags are already placed. When I sent this document from ZipForms to DocuSign, I said buyer 1 is Zachary, buyer 2 is Emma. ZipForms knows that buyer 1 always goes here. That says Emma Jones. And that buyer 2 always goes here. So that says Zach. There you go. So throughout the document, buyer 1 will be on the left, buyer 2 will be on the right, and because I told them who buyer 1 and buyer 2 were, it also applies their tag. Now to address Jim Fasano's question about the, well, let me just back up 1 minute. I could have also, when I was back in ZipForms, told it where the seller's tags should go. If I was working closely with the listing agent, we could send this out together, and I could also tell ZipForms, okay, Karen is seller 1, Adam is seller 2, and ZipForms would have known to apply their tags on the right-hand side so that the listing agent and I could work together to make sure that all of these guys would be on the same certificate. That's a situational choice. Some people want to and can do that. Others prefer to do it one at a time. If I do it one at a time like this, I would have my buyer sign it, then I could send it to Steve, who's my listing agent. He could upload this document to his DocuSign and then have his client sign it separately as well. It's up to you. Let me just talk about the optional, inspection options. And it's a little bit difficult to see. Let me see if I can make this bigger because I think you need to really see what's going on here. All right. Hopefully you can see at this point, I'm going to drag this one off, the little red letters that say optional are applied to this tag. When it comes over from ZipForms, it is automatically on both sides optional. Yeah, I heard somebody say, ugh. So here's the problem. We have to apply something. This happened to be the lesser of two evils. The other option would have been to have ZipForms send it over as all required. And hopefully if you think that through for a second, you can see what the problem would be. If I required on the wave side and required on the elected side, the client would not be able to finish the document without choosing both. Remember I told you required signatures requires them to activate the tag. So if I had required on both sides, the client would have to click both, which essentially negates their choice. So they have defaulted to optional on both sides, and the client has to pick one. So remember, I said we still have to insert ourselves as realtors into the process. This might be one of those special notes that I can put in. I could put in a special note that says, I'm going to talk to them about it beforehand, obviously. I know you're all going to go over the document before they receive it. But I could also then put in a special note that says, hey, Emma and Zach, make sure you choose one or the other, not both. By making them both optional, if they choose the elected side, they can skip the waive side and still finish the document. The danger, of course, is that they could still choose both, because when you choose one, the other one does not disappear. They could still choose both, so I have to really work closely with my client. This is a perfect example of how sometimes technology isn't always the best answer. Or it's a good answer, but we still have to manipulate it a little bit. And in this case, I either need to tell these guys what to do very specifically ahead of time. Maybe I tell them, hey, call me, because when we get to this point, I want to make sure that you do it right. I may want to meet them at the diner again and let them sign electronically, but we're going to go slow when we get to this point. there's people have been a little bit creative with how they resolve this issue. Just be careful and make sure that you know what it is that your client wants. I could. No, that's enough. There was a question over here, and then we'll go to the webinar. Correct. When I'm going from zip forms to DocuSign, it is using a template that PAR and zip forms created together. Okay, so the suggestion was, and I've heard this a lot, is when I can still use zip forms because it's great to have all those tags there, but then I could go into, I can go in and delete this. I can go in and say, I don't want it to be optional, and then drag on required ones. I can do that, but my caution, and if you wrote 1 star next to all the other things I told you to mark like 6 stars next to this one. If you're going to do it that way, make sure you are 100% sure what option your client wanted. If you, remember when we clicked for Emma and Zach on the buyer, remember how fast it went through? I mean, they don't even know what it is they're clicking at that point. So if I am going to apply a required tag and say, okay, Emma, I want you to click elected on this side and waived on that side, I better make sure that I know what they want. And you need to find a way to document that. Maybe you give them the inspection pages ahead of time and say, here, fill it out for me by hand, and then I'll apply what you've told me to the document. I would please check with your broker and your own legal advice on how to best handle that situation. The gentleman's suggestion is certainly doable, but I caution you, because if I make a mistake, for example, let's say I put a required tag that waives the termite inspection, the wood infestation, and then the property ends up with wood infestation, and I don't have anything to support that that's what Emma and Zach told me to put there. All they have to say is, that's not what I told her to do, and it's back on me that they didn't get this inspection that they really needed. So be very, very careful. That's certainly a solution, but use it wisely and carefully. Webinar question? Okay. Lorraine? Sure, I could have completed the agreement of sale in zip forms, downloaded it, and then uploaded it as I did earlier with the buyer agency, and then applied the tags. But it would actually be faster to send it from zip forms so all the other tags are there, and then I can come back to this section. I can take these tags off. They're not permanent when they come over from zip forms. I can still move them around and delete them and change them. So, I can do whatever I need to do with it. I could take the optionals off and change them. Yes, I could. The note won't appear at that point, but the note would appear at the top. Before they start activating tags for the agreement of sale, I can put a note that says, call me, or make sure you pick one or not the other, or explaining the thing. I think the notes may have like 1,000 word, 1,000 characters. There is a limit. We can go back actually and look at what the limit is if we go back. If I was going to apply a note for Emma, it's 1,000. It's 1,000 characters for the note. So yeah, you can leave them a fairly detailed note with 1,000 characters. But it will appear at the top, not the body. Yes? Can a signer relocate the initial locations? No, they cannot. When I put them, they're there. So if there's a mistake, I have to delete and start over. No, the tags are not in zip forms. The tags can only go on in DocuSign. But when I tell the two programs to talk to each other, it automatically tags for me as it comes, when it comes into. I did not build a template for that. Zip forms and PAR built one in the background. Yeah. But the template will be automatically applied, not applied by me. Webinar? The dates, when I apply date signed, are they automatically applied? Well, let's take a look. I'm going to say yes because PAR should have known that that was important, but let's take a look. Where is the signature page? Oh, all right. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, okay. There it is. Yes, it is. Notice though that it's not in the right place, and that's because the agreement of sale changes so often. The template didn't keep up with it, but you saw I could just drag it over. But yes, they did automatically apply the dates. Yes. Okay, so the question was, I can adjust tags. Can I adjust some tags and not the others? I can. So if I were to take this tag, and I'm just going to drag it over here for a moment so hopefully people can see it. It is a little bit tough, but there is a little cone-shaped bar here on the left-hand side of the tag that I can then drag and change the size. Okay, this is 100%. They had already dragged it all the way down as far as they could. And when I do that, every tag will automatically accept that, but then I can change it. So as you see, I just dragged the pre-tagged size that PAR had attached to it, and I can simply change it and put it there. I can also take the signature one and make that one bigger if I wanted to. So yes, I can individually go in and change them. When I do the first, and the question is, when I apply initial tag or any tag and I change the size, doesn't it apply the size to all of the others? What it does is, if I bring a tag over, let's bring a new one over, and I apply, it says 100%. I apply the tag, the size. I want to make it 75%. The next initial that I bring over, it initially goes to 75%. But then I have to actually click on it to accept it. If I don't accept it, it'll go back to 100%. Yes? Is there any way you can manipulate the date sign? No, the date sign is applied by the server, DocuSign server, at the time they sign. No, the question was, can the date sign be manipulated? And the answer is no. It is applied by the server the time on the date that DocuSign has at the time that it was. Right, they can't fudge the dates. That's one of the beauties of it. They can't fudge the dates, but it also means if it's wrong, you have to go back and start over. Webinar? Any other questions? One more minute, we can take one question. The question was, if I send it to my client and they change that they want to sign in person, that's an advanced topic that we're not ready to cover today, especially in the 30 seconds that we have left. I'm sorry. But we will do an advanced session later in the year, and we'll make sure that we include templates, signing in person, and using multiple agents on the same transaction. Okay, this webinar is being recorded, so it will be archived on our website shortly, hopefully by the end of the day, but definitely by the end of the week. So if you want to reference it, you may. Okay, and we do take this training on the road. We will visit your individual office. Just have your broker give me a call and set that up. We're happy to come out and do this demonstration. And there you can ask questions as we go along. It's a little bit more intimate. All right, thank you, everyone. Oh, wait, one more. Oh, she probably turned it off. Okay. Can only PAR documents be brought from zip forms into DocuSign? I'm not positive. I do know that PAR worked with zip forms to have those tags automatically attached. If your zip forms program has individual documents from your firm, if you paid extra for that ability, I don't know. The best way to do is test it. Send one over and see what happens. All right. Thank you, everyone.